There was probably about a year where I didn't have not one audition between American Horror Story and This Is Us. And I thought, oh, okay, that was a flash in the pan. That's cute. But you might want to go and teach preschool again back in Gainesville, Florida, because I don't know if it's going to work out for you. And I was like, but wait, I'm taking acting classes and I'm finally concentrating on me and as an actress and what it is that I want to do. What's happening?
This is CIA, Contagious Influencers of America. I'm David Sams.
And I'm Victoria Robinson.
And we have a star-studded show.
I'm talking off the charts.
All-star.
I've watched this woman for the last couple years on television, the incomparable Chrissy Metz.
Chrissy Metz. Wow. She plays
Kate
on
This Is
Us. Mm-hmm. Phenomenal success on NBC. And we have the hitmaker with us here, our good friend DeVon Franklin today.
Oh, God, what a guy.
Oh, my goodness.
I could listen to him talk all day.
He has just brought us some amazing movies, and he's been responsible for one of my favorites, Miracles from Heaven.
Mm-hmm. Heaven is for real.
Heaven is for real.
I'm surprised this one didn't have a heaven in the title.
Well, some people may or may not know, but he's also a preacher. The film that they are involved with is based on a real life story that basically happened, 4 years ago or so?
Yeah, it hasn't been that long.
It takes place where there's a drowning. The kid was declared dead. I think he was dead for quote unquote almost an hour.
Yes. The doctors, the team walk out of the room and said, we can do nothing more. They say to his mother, take your time as much as you need to say goodbye. He was gone. There was nothing on him. There was no breathing machine on him. He was lying on the gurney and he was gone.
So let's go to the interview now with Chrissy Metz, and then we'll bring in DeVon Franklin.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about this movie, Breakthrough.
Chrissy, welcome to the homestead here.
Thank you.
Wow.
It's really nice to be here. Thank you.
I love doing watching these videos of you where people like, oh my gosh, you came out of nowhere in a couple of years. And I was in LA for 30 years, and I know what nobody comes out of nowhere. I mean, you pay your dues, you're around town. And I had no idea that you were a talent agent for like almost a decade.
Yeah, almost 10 years. Yeah, I became an agent's assistant because my manager was like, you're going to find out all the information you can, make sure that my clients are submitted, and learn whatever you can learn. And I was like, wait, what about me? What about my acting? Like, what? You don't believe in me? Like, what's going to happen? What if she hates me and she drops me and then I have to go back home? And so it was really kind of frightening in the beginning. And then as I realized that, you know, if I can't do what I want to do, which is pursue acting in the sense of consistently auditioning, then at least I can help other people do it. And so I became an assistant and then a junior agent, and then of course a talent agent. And I got to scout some really great talent and up and coming, you know, youth and young adults, which was really fun, but also very challenging because it's like watching your boyfriend take another woman out every day. You're like, oh, I hope you guys have fun. Oh, okay. I wish it was me. I'll have a great time, you know? So yeah, it was tricky, but I learned so much and I met so many influential people in my career that, you know, I knew it was a part of my journey in hindsight.
So what did you learn during that process about yourself?
I learned that I really wanted to tell stories and be an actor, because if I could go through the tumultuous ups and downs of, you know, watching other people do what I want to do and encouraging and supporting from the sidelines as a cheerleader, that, you know, if I've stuck it out this long, obviously I want to do it, and for the right reasons. And I also work ethic, you know, responsibility, and also just committing to what it is that I wanted, because it doesn't always look, the picture of our career doesn't always look the way that we think it's going to look. And mine took a bit of a detour, but it really prepared me. Like, I didn't have any press training. I didn't, you know, a lot of new actors sort of are a little afraid to talk, especially on carpets or in interviews. And I was interviewing people for 9 years and really wanting to know about them, you know, depending on if I wanted to sign them or if they were ready. And so all of those things like really prepared me for when I did go and book This Is Us, and we did, you know, just carpets after carpets and questions and how to navigate all of that. So, every single thing that I went through was just imperative to where I was going.
Chrissy, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
First of all, I love your work. I
Oh,
love your
thank
work in This
you.
Is Us. I love the movie. I've seen it now twice, and
Thank you.
this movie that we're going to be talking about a lot more about. But what kept you, I love your analogy about the boyfriend. What kept you from being bitter when you were watching that going on day after day after day? And what kept you motivated to keep going?
I think it was just sort of that that small voice that was like, okay, it might not be right now, but I think it's going to be. And I just loved the entertainment industry. And whether I was an audience member or an agent or an actress, I love to watch people perform. I love to see the transformation. I love to see the work ethic and the commitment that's put into it, because it's, it's not for the faint of heart at all. And then just when I was wanting to, or just when I thought I was going to give up, because I just was like, maybe I'm delusional. Maybe this is not for me. I would have a potential client come in and they're like, why are you on TV? You're this and you're that. And oh my, you should have your own show. I'm like, anyway. And so where's your headshot? Like distract, deflect,
Right.
don't even. And, every single time that I would just be down and out, I'd either get an audition, because I'd have them very, very few and far between, or somebody would say like, oh, this casting director asked about you. And I'm like, what? So there were always these sort of little clues and little reminders of like, you might
Keep
be doing
going.
this now, but there's a reason for all of it.
Yeah, so I call these things little kisses from God.
Oh,
Just like saying, okay, you're on the right track. I know it's not easy, but I'm teaching you something in this journey, and keep going down that path. So
Right.
you got lots of them. That's awesome.
I did, and I'm so grateful and I also was grateful that I was open and receptive to receiving them, because sometimes we're so blocked or bitter or jealous, or, which is completely human. And believe me, I spent many a nights crying and wanting to, retreat and give up. But those little kisses were necessary.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing that, in reading your book and watching some of your previous interviews, that resonated throughout all of this was how you don't hold a grudge on past relationships.
Right.
I mean, forgiveness seems to be a big thing for you, so that you can move forward.
Yeah.
Going back to your childhood, your relationship with your biological father, your relationship with your stepfather. Tell us about that, because there's somebody listening right now who is dealing with holding that grudge that's keeping them from moving forward.
Yeah, I think my grudges that I did hold were because I didn't know how to process the feelings, and I just took them so personally. And of course, they're your parents, so they're supposed to set an example. But hurt people, and I now, of course, as an adult, I realize that what they went through or what they were projecting on me had nothing to do with me. And that if I let it affect me, it's going to completely compromise the rest of my life. And I'm still working through that. Just because I wrote a book and I talk about it doesn't mean I have it all figured out, because there are times and days that something will trigger me and I will, I'm like, oh, I haven't worked through that trauma. I've really got to continue to do that. But the forgiveness was so important for me and my healing and moving forward, because, what they say is, holding a grudge or a resentment is drinking poison and expecting the other person to be ill. It's really affecting you. And so it was a process, but, it's for the greater good. And hopefully that will inspire other people to do that, because it doesn't serve you, and it's just unnecessary. I know it's difficult to get through, but it's possible.
Yeah, unforgiveness is it eats us alive. And I don't think we realize that we're not punishing the other person, we're hurting ourselves. And I'm glad David brought that up, because that's a theme of what I've seen with your life as well. I came from a pretty rough childhood myself. My father was an alcoholic. He beat my mom all the time. It was a pretty rough childhood. But I was determined to be a survivor of my childhood, not a victim. You really do inspire me about that, because you're doing the same thing. You're refusing to be in that victim mentality, which so many people do. And it makes me sad for them, because they don't realize you can still change your life. I have 4 daughters. I have 5 grandchildren. I have 2 on the way. And I want to make sure they have the life I didn't get to have, unfortunately.
Exactly.
And you're doing the same thing with your own, it looks like to me. I commend you for that.
Thank you. Well, one prayer that helped me was the St. Francis prayer, which is, it's better to love than to be loved, better to understand than to be understood. And so, of course, you have to have enough for yourself. But I think that when you can empathize with what other people are going through, it's not about you. And then you can move through it, I think, in an easier way.
I agree.
Yeah.
How has your faith helped get you through some of these difficult times?
Oh, I mean, I think sometimes it's the only thing that's gotten me through, because when you're stuck in a rut and you literally are like, I don't forget about which way to go. Up, is that like an option, you know? So, my grandmother, who has since passed, but she was so important in my life and a second mother to me, and instilled faith at a very young age. And I ended up going to church by myself as a teenager, you know, whether my family showed up or not, because I was searching for something and trying to understand what my lot and what my purpose was in life, and trying to connect to that. And thank goodness I held on, even if it was just by, you know, just a little string sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I pray constantly and continuously because I need that connection. It's, I think, the only thing that's really gotten me through, to have something to believe in, you know. And for me, it's the power of God and what it is that I'm intended to do, and not from an ego place, but just help me do what it is that you want me to do, not what my ego or pride has in store. So,
was there ever a time during this journey where you said to yourself, what am I doing here? I'm going to hang it up. I'm going to go back home. This is just too much to handle.
Mm-hmm.
This is not God's purpose for me being here.
Oh yeah. I mean, 2 distinct times for sure. Right before I booked an arc on American Horror Story. And then I did about 5 episodes of that. And it was strange because the audition sort of came out of the blue, as I thought. And it was my first recurring role on a show. And I got to work with Jessica Lange and Kathy Bates and Angela Bassett and Sarah Paulson and Evan Peters, and just literally a master class that I got paid to do, and, you know, learned so much. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have been prepared to even audition for This Is Us. So every single step was like so instrumental in the process. But there was a year after American Horror Story and before This Is Us that nothing happened. And I was working with a coworker at the agency who didn't want me to leave. He's like, I want you to pursue your dreams, but like, you're such a great agent, so I don't really want you to go. And I'm like, this is not fair. So I was like, the only way that I'm going to do it is to step out on faith. And I said, okay, I'm going to take this concentrated time and I'm just going to be an actress. Guys, that is the scariest thing ever. I was like, I'm going to be on unemployment. I've worked since I was 14 years old. So I don't know what it is to not work. And then I was like, okay, I've paid into unemployment. It's okay. And I'll just use it for the time being. And it, you know, there's a lot of guilt around that, but it was something that I needed to do. And since I was waiting, you know, and trying to audition, there was probably about a year where I didn't have not one audition between American Horror Story and This Is Us. And I thought, oh, okay, that was a flash in the pan. That's cute. But you might want to go and teach preschool again back in Gainesville, Florida, because I don't know if it's going to work out for you. And I was like, but wait, I'm taking acting classes and I'm finally concentrating on me and as an actress and what it is that I want to do. What's happening? And I called my mom and I said, Mom, I just don't know. I feel delusional. I feel silly. And she said, okay, you can either be miserable in Los Angeles pursuing your dream or miserable in Gainesville, Florida. So what do you want to do? And I was like, all right, I guess I'll stay in LA. And not a month later did I have an audition for This Is Us, and not even have enough money to get to the audition and the callback in my bank account to make it, and booked the role. So
you had less than $1 in the bank account, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I had to my name was 81 cents.
81 cents.
81 cents.
Wow.
It came down to 81 cents.
That's right. I had to borrow money because, the gas pump doesn't register through a credit card if you don't have $20 or more in your account. And I was like, I need money for gas to get to the audition.
Well, let me see. 81 cents in LA will buy you what? 2/10 of a gallon?
Yeah.
Or whatever
not even, I don't think. It changes so often. But yeah, so... I hope that this will inspire and encourage people to keep going. And, I still see previous clients at different events and they are encouraged. And when they book jobs, it is so rewarding for me and fulfilling for me that they're continuing to do it because all of our stories look different, but,
I say at this point in my life, through the ups and downs and ins and outs, I can see how there was a plan. Mm-hmm. It's hard when you're looking forward because you're like, why isn't this happening? Why isn't that happening? But when you look back, you think, oh my gosh, that wasn't an obstacle. That was a place where I learned something to get on to the next thing.
Yeah, it was
right?
a lesson.
Is that starting to come in the picture for you?
1,000%. Yeah, everything. Like I said, interviewing people, feeling comfortable around people, being authentic and being present and having to do that for other people for 9 years really lended itself to how, I interact with people now and really getting to the meat of it, the goodness of all of it, as opposed to like, oh, well, you're not the right type. And, I was always sort of rooting for the underdog as far as acting and actors go, because, it's hard. It's really, really difficult. But everything, I always say that our tragedies are really our triumphs. And if I didn't go through a tumultuous childhood, I wouldn't have the empathy and I wouldn't be as vulnerable and I wouldn't be as uncomfortable and feeling different, and then being able to convey that through the roles that I've gratefully been cast as.
So you look at your childhood in a way, from what I'm hearing you say, that yes, maybe it was tough and it was rough and all that, but it is who you are today. And like, I've met people who have these quote unquote perfect childhoods, and I've looked at their lives and went, gosh, I wish I'd have had that. And and then I stop and go, but God, you knew before I was even here what my life was going to look like as a child and who my parents would be. And you turn something good into it. You take what the enemy may be meant to destroy you and turn it into good. Yeah. And it's a choice. And it just sounds like that's what you've continued to do. I've studied you before I was going to see the movie and meet you. I was like, I really like this chick.
Oh, thank you.
She's just so genuine and authentic and real. And I just so appreciate that, especially coming out of Hollywood. I'm just going to be honest. It's a nice, refreshing time to hear about somebody like you and to see all your success. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. I think so much of what we do is comparing and despairing, and I don't have this and I don't look like this, and you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
And we don't all want to look alike and sound alike and do the same things, because we wouldn't be able to appreciate all of the beautiful
Absolutely.
broad strokes of color, and that's the thing that I've learned. It's taken a minute, but just to realize that not only am I purposely made, but I'm made exactly the way I'm supposed to be, to help to maybe even help other people to not even accept, but love who they truly are.
Right. Think about it, Chrissy. On paper, people with backgrounds like you have, like I have, other people have, it wouldn't look like this person's going to amount to this or do this, because the world's going to be against them, or they're going to be against themselves, and be their greatest enemy. But praise God.
At our screening last night, a woman, she said, I don't have a question. I just want to tell you how special you are. And and my best friend Donnie and I were driving home after that. And we were a wreck. It was an emotional screening. It was like overwhelmingly, amazingly beautiful. But I said, I spent a lot of my life not hearing these beautiful, kind words that I'm now I'm actually able to receive it. And that's a really, really big deal for me. So I'm beyond grateful. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being who you are.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a fan, not just of the show. I'm a fan of you.
Thank you.
Honestly, no matter what work you do, I am really a fan of you.
Thank you.
And I believe what that woman said last night. I was there.
Oh,
Every
don't get
word.
me crying again. Don't get me crying.
So now we're going to bring in a friend. He's the hit maker. He produced this new film that you are starring in.
Yes.
And DeVon Franklin joins us now. Hey, DeVon.
Hey.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How y'all doing?
Wow.
Good to see you.
Wow.
Your voice is definitely distinguishable.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so
Thank you
good.
very much.
You always have a career in radio if the film
All
thing
right.
doesn't work out.
Face for radio, exactly.
No.
Well, from
That's
what
not
I've
he
seen
said.
with this movie, I think the film is working. Your film making
My career is
business
okay.
working
Okay.
just fine.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. Thank you.
So, Chrissy, when you got this script, when it came across your desk, your couch, whatever, what did you think of this?
Well, I knew about the story from the news prior. And I'm, a believer in miracles, and I just know how they worked in my life. And so when we had the general meeting, I was just I thought we were just gonna chat, hi, and maybe future down the line, there'll be, might be a project or something that.
Oh, that's so fascinating that you didn't actually know.
No, I thought it was just sort of a general meeting.
Oh, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, which
That's
is
amazing,
great.
because we were like, oh, we hope she wants to meet because we need her.
Yeah. No, I just thought, maybe if you were interested, and, So, my mom had a stroke about prior to the production, about a year before, and the same words that I said to my mother's doctors, Joyce said to her son John's doctors. And I said that, and
Joyce meaning the character
Joyce Smith,
you
the
played
character,
in the movie.
but the portrayal of the real Joyce Smith. And I said that to DeVon, and it just sort of struck me in the moment, and I was like, oh, I think I'm supposed to play this role. Yeah. So, and then I'm like, hopefully I didn't know how many people were in contention for the role. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to be honest, and I'm just going to tell them my real story, and we'll see. And fingers, toes, and eyes crossed.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
So I had no idea.
There was no one else in contention for the role.
I was going to say, there was
She
one.
was the only one. She was one of one. And we were, I was sweating it. I was like, man, if I don't get Chrissy, there's no movie. So, it was amazing though, because in that first meeting, she was just so great. And there was also such a, a synergy because of the things she's sharing about her mother, and so we left that meeting and we were like, okay, great. And we sent the script and we were just hoping that she was going to like it. And once we got word back that she did, it was great. And then it was just a matter of, negotiating the deal and going through that process, because she had another project that she was doing. And so that had to kind of get worked out and everything. But the studio was very clear. If you don't have Chrissy, you, DeVon, you don't have a movie.
Wow.
So we were praying.
Wow.
We were praying.
Yeah, you were praying hard.
knew?
That's right. And even got the
How
studio.
about
The
that?
studio execs aren't even, necessarily faith, and they were praying. So, so God heard those prayers. Yes, He did.
It's funny, God always comes in, doesn't he?
He
Even
does.
if you're an atheist.
Hey,
It's like-
yes, He does. It still works if you work it.
Yeah.
You seem to pick up on this theme, these miracle movies. You're a pastor,
Preacher. Yeah.
right? Preacher. So it's in your blood.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about selecting a project like this that just gets under your skin and you just got to do it? Because I'm sure that there's all kinds of things that come across your desk every day.
Sure. I mean, all the time, people pitch me things all the time. It's truly God. Like I really don't go looking for projects. It's almost like when you kind of put out, when you plant the flag and say, this is what I'm about. This is my intention. This is what I'm here to do. It's like putting a satellite up. You put out the radar, and then all of a sudden people start to find you. It's the craziest thing. I mean, it's like really all you have to do is cast intention. Boom. And then it's like everyone that's aligned with that intention, they're like, oh, here's somebody over here. And here's someone over here. Like it's a frequency. So for me, I don't even, I don't look for projects. I just say, hey, this is my intention. I want to use entertainment to inspire people. That's why I'm here. That's what I do. From even being a studio executive to being a producer. And so this particular story with the breakthrough story, I did not find it. It found me. God really brought it to me. I was on TBN, Pastor Sam Rodriguez on his program. And before I went on, he told me, he was like, yo, I have a story that I'm featuring that I think you might want to hear. And I was like, great. And so I get to the green room at TBN right there in I think it was in LA, but not LA because TBN.
Santa Ana.
Yeah, Santa Ana is way out. I mean, literally, it takes like 4 hours in traffic to get there. But I went,
and it's only 5 miles.
It's only 5 miles, exactly. And so backstage, there was the real Joyce Smith, John Smith, and Pastor Jason. And I thought it was like, wow, this is an interesting combo. Because here's Joyce, kind of like, an older white woman. Here's John, this young Latino kid. And then here's Pastor Jason, kind of this hipster pastor with the crazy haircut. And I'm like, I wonder what this is. So I didn't know what it was. But I said hello nonetheless. And then once they went on to tell their story, that's when I was listening backstage. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. John had died. He fell through a frozen lake, was dead for trapped underneath the ice for 15 minutes without oxygen. They took him to the emergency room. They worked on him for another 45 minutes. They could not bring him back to life. They went to Joyce. Joyce goes in the emergency room. Instead of saying goodbye, she prays John back to life. And when I heard that, patient dead, mother prayed, patient came back to life, I was like, whoa, this is unbelievable. So they did their segment. I went on to do my segment. And then after that, I went to them and said, I think I'm supposed to help you tell your story. I'm the producer of Miracles from Heaven. And they were like, wow, we know of that movie and we'd love to talk more. And so we started talking. And that's when as I started interviewing them, I got more of the story. It was more than just, praying her son back to life. Mm-hmm. John was adopted from Guatemala when he was 6 months old. And as he got older, he always questioned why he wasn't wanted and why his skin color was different and, who was his biological mother. And Joyce would always affirm to him, you are wanted. You're different because that's what God wants. He wants to use your difference for your destiny. And she would always affirm him, but he would never really believe it. And it wasn't until this incident when he came out of it and he realized it was his mother's prayers and the support of the community that helped save his life. And he finally began to believe that he had a purpose. And once I understood that, I was like, oh, okay, got it. There's a movie there because there's a beginning, middle, and end. And the prayer was just the catalyst for that change that happened in John's life. So that's a long answer to your question, but I don't find the projects, they find me. And I just try to listen to what God wants me to do and not try to buy into doing it any other way, any other producer does it, because in Hollywood, a lot of times it's the volume business. Everybody wants more. Let me set up 25 projects, 30 projects. And for me, I don't like to do that. I like to set up what I want to make because every movie is a miracle. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes effort. I mean, Chrissy and I have been on the tour and it's rigorous, promoting and talking. And if you don't have a passion for it, I just can't do it. Mm-hmm. So I only focus on those things I have passions for. And it just so happens that they happen to be these true stories that are inspirational.
That whole thing, David, reminds me of how God is the greatest networker.
Yeah.
And we really just have to live this life and surrender to him. He does do the rest. So you being there on that day of all days, when the Smith family's there and the pastor's there and hearing their story, and now look what you've done. You've made this incredible movie.
But what's also amazing is Pastor Jason told me that Pastor Sam had rescheduled their interview multiple times.
That's
and
not
that
crazy.
was the third time.
Jesus,
and
man.
they didn't even think it was going to happen. And it just,
That's amazing.
It's crazy.
To be there in the right place at the
Yes.
right time.
Because they could have come before and I wouldn't have been there.
So I want the two of you to talk to me about the power of the story. Your story, stories that have come into your lives. I want you to really encourage somebody listening right now to share their story because their story can impact so many others, whether they're doing a movie, whether it's just their family. Mm-hmm. I want you to just reach out to them and embrace them through your story.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is for anybody listening, please, you got to get the book, This Is Me, Chrissy's book. You got to get it. I mean, it is, I'm telling you, like, if you want a story that's going to inspire you, read her book because you're hearing the voice of somebody who, listen, 81 cents in the bank account, came out to Hollywood, no one believed in her. She believed in herself. She had the faith. She put in the work as an agent. That is the most truly depressing situation where you want to be represented and you are in the position of representing other people. And to be humble and to, not quit. And then also, if you read the book, while she was doing that, she was taking acting classes and she was working on her craft. She was preparing. The first scene that she shot in Breakthrough was the prayer scene where she prays John back to life. And on my Instagram stories to this moment, you can go on there and see my reaction to producing that moment and what I said in that moment. And I said, what she just did, you can't do if you're not ready. So all that time, instead of being frustrated over not having an opportunity, she was preparing herself so that when, the director says action, she can get to work, and that wasn't just on the TV show, it was on the movie. So if you want an inspirational story, you're listening to The Power of Faith right now. You're hearing it. Don't just think you're listening to an actor and a producer. You're hearing faith in action, and it works. It works, but you gotta work it. If you gotta cry, keep going. If you gotta yell, keep going. If you gotta crawl, you gotta keep going. And part of keeping going is to prepare for what you're praying for. So anybody listening, like it's too often, especially people of faith, we give to God what God is trying to give back to us. Sometimes God's saying, you're putting too much on me. I gave you a mind, I gave you a brain, I gave you hand, I gave you all of this because you got to participate in this. And sometimes we want to take a passive role. And God says, no, you got to participate. So I think anyone listening, you got to pray and prepare. What are you frustrated? Any area you're frustrated, that's where you have to prepare the most. Any area you're discouraged, that's where you got to become the most determined. Why? Because it works. I'm sitting here, I've been in Hollywood for 20 years. I've always wanted to produce. It took me 18 years to produce. 18 years of showing up, serving other people, being an executive, working on everybody else's films, servicing talent, having it like one day wanting to be my own producer, but having to work for other producers and service their vision. And when it was time, God said, now it's time, go. But now everything that Chrissy said about being prepared earlier, it's so true. Once you actually get there and you start doing it, you realize every step before prepared you. I know how to handle talent. I know how to develop a script. I know how to market and publicize stories. Why? Because I've spent 18 years learning a craft and a trade and not letting my frustration get me to the place where I said, I'm done. Think about it. If I would have said I'm done, Chrissy would have said she's done, there'd be no breakthrough. There'd be no movie. The Smith story wouldn't have the right team to even tell their story. So it's so important to anybody listening to say, hey, don't quit. Don't quit. You are going to win. If you're going to win. It's already written. Yeah. So why would you quit? Literally, and the finish line is closer than you think. So that's what I would say in terms of sharing our story and what can inspire somebody to share theirs.
I want to go to your church.
Yes, you do. I've been going every day since we've been on this tour. I literally was saying, like, you've been my teacher. Amen. You've been teaching, and I'm more grateful than I was before. I'm like, wow, this is exciting.
Yeah, it's not just the movie.
No.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's never just what we think it is.
Not.
No, it's always bigger. It's always bigger.
Always.
So what about you, Chrissy? I just want you to encourage somebody listening right now that not to give up, not to throw in the towel. Hope is there. Their day is coming. Give them a little of encouragement, if you would. Yeah,
I think that we tend to take things so personally that if something doesn't go our way or the way that we planned, that it's just, well, this is it. I've got to, throw in the towel. And it really, like I say, it's not what's happening to you, but for you. And if you change your perspective, you change your mind, you change your life. And you'll be so shocked, as I was, and pleasantly surprised once you make that shift, how quickly that will happen. And I think it really starts with gratitude, because there's so much we can be grateful for, even if we haven't started our business that we want or created, whatever it is that we have dreams and aspirations about. If you start with gratitude, something really amazing happens. When you're thankful for what you have, you will receive more. And also, you can't keep anything you don't give away. So that's why being of service is really important. Not only being of service, but you learn so much, not only about yourself, but about what it is that you want to do. And then you're, of course, prepared. And I say this, but like, doctors, lawyers, they practice. Olympic athletes are training for their entire lives for maybe 2 minutes, in the sun. All of that is so important that you enjoy the journey. It's not about the destination. It really is about the journey. And it's just important to start with the gratitude, to know that we're here to be of service, and that what you're destined for is coming to you. And it's not because you're being punished. You're being taught all of these incredible lessons that are just going to bolster you in what it is that you're pursuing. So you can't give up. You just can't. And if it's placed upon your heart, it's there for a reason, for the right reason.
The movie is breakthrough. I saw the first a couple of days the trailer was out. I think at like 30 million views or something crazy.
Yeah, we're at 110 million views.
Wow.
Yeah.
So exciting.
That's
It's
crazy.
exciting.
I just wanted to say to you guys, not just thank you for being here, because I thank you for being here. Of course, David and I love meeting people like you guys, but I'm just honestly feeling so overwhelmed right now with you guys, just of God's goodness. I mean, he honestly loves us so much.
Yeah.
And he never gives up on us, so let's not give up on each other and ourselves. That's
right.
So I just really am feeling such an anointing in this little studio.
Amen. And I think that is what is captured in the movie. You know, not giving up on each other. You know, the community didn't give up on John, and everybody, you know, stood with one another. And I think that's why the ultimate miracle happened with his recovery. And, you know, he's 18 years old, no brain damage, no lung damage, no eye damage, nothing, no evidence of what he went through because of that, you know, because of the, you know, everyone feeling like they're in this together and walking with one another, you know. And it's interesting. It made me think of, you know, Chrissy sings the lead song of the film.
She does.
And the song is I'm Standing With You.
Okay, is there anything you can't do?
Yes.
Not much.
A list. There's a list.
And I did discover online Chrissy and the Vapors.
Yes, that's old school. That's like, you know, when you don't have a budget and you're trying to figure it out. And then when Diane Warren, legendary songwriter, is like, oh, I'm going to write a song. I'm so inspired by this scene in the movie. Oh, I want you to sing it. Who? You want who to sing it? I mean, it's my dreams on top of dreams coming true. It is so hard to even comprehend. Really, I'm like, oh, what? Yeah.
And this song is amazing. It'll just make you cry. You know, it's the type of song you dedicate to somebody when you want them to know that you're with them and that you're hanging in there no matter what they go through.
This is a beautiful movie. I loved the movie. Go see the movie. It's an incredible movie.
Thank you.
David, I'm blown away by that interview. I love these people. And I love that Chrissy did not give up on her dream by not perfecting her craft.
Neither one of them. I mean, look at DeVon. I mean, he made it very clear that he did not have an opportunity for almost 2 decades to make his movies. He was out there making other people's movies.
Yeah, like Chrissy was finding talent jobs for other people's talent when she wanted to be out there doing the same jobs. And that, I think, is one of the lessons in this interview today, David, is never give up. No matter how bad it looks, pick yourself up. If God put a desire in your heart, he's going to fulfill it.
There are so many people with dreams. There are so many people that feel as though they don't matter.
Yeah, and there's so many people with dreams who have dream stealers around them.
Exactly.
And then they buy into that lie. Instead of believing who God says they are and what his plan is, they start listening to the negative of what other people say who they are and that they'll never amount to anything. And if you get sucked into that stuff, you're going to lose. You've got to keep your eyes focused on who God says we are. And we've got to believe that we are wonderfully made and we have a purpose and a plan for our life. Like they were talking about, walk through it. Just walk through that plan. Just stick with the plan, even when the plan doesn't look like it's working. Because I think you said in the interview, David, you asked them about how you don't realize all these things that are happening, these bumps in the road or these tragedies or whatever they are, all bring you to where you are. And you can look back and see the lesson once you get there. But look, they're going to have more lessons to learn. We're all going to have more lessons to learn until the day we die. But let's not forget where we came from, where we're at, so that when we go through those trials and tribulations, we can remember, all right, I know I'm in this valley, but God's going to bring me out. He always brings me out, and there'll be a lesson to learn while I'm in it.
Many times, a roadblock, a detour, you know, when we're facing them head on, that sign, we get angry.
Right.
It's like, no, I do not want to drive around that. I do not want to take that detour. I want to get there now. But then when we look at it years later, you realize God put that detour sign in front of you so you wouldn't drive off the freaking cliff.
Remember that song, God Bless the Broken Road? When I see people that are so miserable and so unhappy, that's the choice they're making, whatever their circumstances. And then I've seen people that have nothing. And they're some of the happiest people I've ever met. It's all about perspective, and it's all about a mindset. Gosh, what a happier world it would be if people just became better instead of bitter. Trust me.
The movie is Breakthrough. It's a must-see.
It is, and you will thank us for going to see this movie.
And take somebody with you who needs that breakthrough.
Yes, take
who
somebody
needs that
with you.
miracle, who needs to understand the power of prayer, who's got to just like come out of that weeping. I mean, by the way, you're going to weep in this movie.
Oh my, take some Kleenex. You're going to weep more than once. There's several times I was crying, going, oh my gosh, I'm a mess. It was a good cry. And there were moments that I just felt so proud to serve the God I serve.
Thank you for listening to Contagious Influencers of America podcast. If you haven't yet done so, go to the Apple Podcast and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast.
We are also available on Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio app, and Spotify. Make sure you join us again next week, where you'll meet yet another contagious influencer.
Here on CIA, Contagious Influencers of America. And remember, go out there and live that life in living color, because it sure is a lot more interesting than living it in black and white. We'll see you next time.